Okay, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started for the first Senate meeting of the year. As usual, we want to make sure everybody can hear us. So let's start at downtown.
Fine, and pass that puppy dog around.
Yes.
Well, it just conveyed to me what that is. But.
Holly? Can you hear us?
Yes, we're here.
Okay. West? Stefan?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, and I think everybody can hear at Tempe. Is that fair? Okay, good. All right. Now, as usual, if we lose the video, we'll take a 10-minute adjournment, a recess, and see if we can get it back. And continue on audio if we can't. If we lose the audio, then we'll adjourn the meeting. That's how it works. With that, I'd like to officially call things to order, call matters to order, and also apologize to the President and the Provost for being overdressed, but other than that. Let me welcome all the new senators here. We appreciate your service. There are quite a number of you here. You are our primary communications channel to the faculty, and in particular, I would call your attention to the list of new courses that you get each time we have it. And you're the sort of first line of defense on letting everybody know what's going on with that. If you have any issues at all, don't hesitate to come directly to the office of the Senate office. That's usenate.asu.edu. Or obviously you can grab one of us. There are three of us here. Chuck Barbie over there, Pamela Hoyle over here, and me. We're the folks who end up in that office. We do have a difference this year on the clickers. The clickers will work in Tempe, but they will not work on the other campuses. And it's a long story, but we won't go into it right now. So what I'd like to do for the quorum purposes is to ask the folks at Tempe, if Chuck would put that up, to use their clickers to indicate they're here, and also at the other campuses to please give me a count of how many folks are there. Let's just take about 2 minutes and we'll do that.
We don't have them. Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to go along with this.
We seem to be lagging in Tempe. If you'd use your clickers, please.
They have to do I or nay if we do.
Just push A.
Tempe senators, just push ones or /A. They don't look like they're on, but they do work. I'm not getting to it. If you have any problems, just raise your hand. As soon as that goes away, just go ahead and vote. Good.
Okay, we've got quite a number at Tempe at this point. I wonder if I could get counts from the rest. So we'll start with West. Stefan, how many have you got?
7.
10?
7.
Okay. Polly?
10 people.
Okay, 10 at Polly. Downtown?
16?
16 downtown. And we're getting up toward 52, 53 at Tempe. So I think we are certainly okay on a quorum. Okay, a couple things. First of all, Chuck reminded me I haven't introduced myself. My name is Arnold Maltz, and I'm the Senate President for this year. I'm out of Supply Chain Management. There will also be a sign-up sheet going around at each campus. I would ask that you put your name in there or make a check if you're on that sheet already. And if you're not, please print your name and let Pamela Hoyle know that you're the senator from your appropriate unit. Any changes should also be emailed to Pam. With that, I'm going to turn things over to Michael Crow and let him give you his annual report.
Thank you, and good afternoon. I don't know how much of what I have to say is repetitive of what I said at the assembly that we had the other day that all 4 campuses participated on, but what I'll do is give a summarized version of that and hopefully leave enough time for questions and any issues that anyone would like to raise. We have about 103,000 students enrolled in degree programs with us this semester. That's a record number. All of the doom and gloom things that you read in the newspapers, written by I'm not really sure who, that said that international students wouldn't be coming to American universities, we have the same number that we had last year. And so we're excited about that. That out-of-state students wouldn't be coming. We have large numbers of out-of-state students. We have an amazingly diverse freshman class of about 12,000, give or take a few. 7,500 of them are Arizona residents. Of those, 53% are minority students. I was just looking at some data that Provost Searle put together the other day. In 1990, 2% of our freshmen were minority students. 2%. And so the institution is transformed from its goal of accessibility to talent from all family backgrounds. We have very dramatic differentiation also, not in our freshman class, but in our transfer students that are coming in heavily from community colleges. Those students tend to be even from families of lower income and broader diversity than even our incoming freshmen. So the university is, with its 103,000 students, about 30,000 online in degree programs and about 73,000 on campus in degree programs. And so we're continuing to make progress, continuing to provide, I think, an excellent set of services to the marketplace of learners that are out there, and in particular to the increasingly diverse marketplace of learners that we're attempting to reach out to. The provost has not made this announcement yet, but he will at some point, and so I won't preempt him other than preempting him right now. And that is to say that we will have record freshman retention at the highest level ever attained, somewhere in the range of 85%. Our long-term goal, just to remind those of you that haven't heard this in a while, and for those of you that are new senators, our long-term goal is a 90% freshman retention rate minimum threshold. And we picked that because that's the minimum threshold of those research universities that admit only students with A averages from high school. The University of Texas is an institution at Austin that fits that bill, and so we intend to not admit only A students from high school, to admit A and B students from high school, and to have a 90% retention rate across a very diverse class, across all family incomes, all ethnicities, every background imaginable, and have a 90% freshman retention, and we're continuing to make steady progress. That steady progress is a result of the work of our faculty, our staff, our team, our technology assets. We're now the second largest home for on-campus living. Only Michigan State has more on-campus students living on campus than we do. We will soon pass them. We're up about 10,000 students living on campus just in the last few years. So that's an enterprise in and of itself, including a brand new freshman residence hall on the Tempe campus called Tooker House, named for Gary Tooker, an early 1960s graduate of our pre-School of Engineering who went on to become the chairman of Motorola globally and is a significant contributor to ASU of time, of talent, and of treasure. So he's also made investments across all of those dimensions. This residence hall, just to give you some sense of where we're headed, is now home to 1,600 of the 2,700 freshmen in engineering. And it's designed as a new living and learning space. It's a sort of an experiment that we will then eventually move out into all of the other residence halls. We've worked with the Amazon Corporation and embedded a series of Echo devices which will be connected to all the things that Echoes are connected to at the moment, if you're not familiar with that, but then also connected to elements of the freshman engineering curriculum for interactive voice tutoring. And so if you have an Echo, anybody have an Echo at home? I have more than one. Just play Jeopardy on there each day, which I do. I just like to be able to do that. And so it listens to your answers, evaluates your answers, and then evaluates your answers in the context of all the people globally that are playing that same game at the same instant. So there's interactivity and big data analytics behind a lot of these things, which then we think will help our students in this verbal modality. We're not going to end with engineering, obviously, and engineering students. We're going to start with engineering and engineering students as we advance this technology. And so that's an example of some of the things that we've been doing. I know it must get boring sometime, but certainly not boring to us that are looking at the university from the center, that our teams are breaking records on every front. Our research funding, as measured by the National Science Foundation, higher education and research and development funding expenditures will be north of $540 million this year. So we're approaching the $600 million threshold. That will move us into the top 8 of all universities in the country that don't have a medical school in terms of funding. And that also means that since we don't have a medical school, that's more research funding as measured by NSF than Stanford, outside of medicine, than Stanford, UCLA, USC, or any of the other schools that we sometimes think about as being big research universities. We closed $220 million plus fundraising year from more than 100,000 contributors. 217 million was the previous record. That was last year. 220 million plus this year is exceeding even that record. So we're well on track for what we hope will be $1.5 billion to $2 billion of contributions to the institution during the what we're calling the campaign for ASU 2020, which is underway until June 30th, 2020. It's an exciting thing. It's hard to raise money when you don't have grateful patients like medical schools and hospital-based universities. So we've got football and other things, but mostly we just have regular non-medical school professors, and so we're making, I think, excellent progress in that space also. Lots of individual achievements by our faculty. I don't think enough faculty pay close enough attention to ASU News. We know how many faculty open it. We don't know who, but we know how many things are looked at, who on the inside is looking at things. And so I wish that we could get more uptick, because our faculty are just out there hitting the balls out of the park just everywhere, every field, every area, projects that they're winning, awards that they're winning, recognitions that they're winning. And so it's easy for me to say, although when I say this, when I travel around the country and travel even more broadly around the world, I say, and I say this with all confidence and with every ounce of accuracy that I can possibly bring forth, our faculty is as good or better than the faculty assembled at any other institution in the world, which it is. And we have a student body that's unlike most institutions anywhere in the world, and we brought those two things together. And that's our unique sort of mix of things. We are going to move forward with several major research buildings that we are now racing through the planning stages. A new building that has the very fancy name that you've heard of on other buildings, Interdisciplinary Science and Technology Building number 7. That will go at the corner of University and Rural. It will be the largest research building that we've ever constructed, and it will concentrate in it, when we're done with our planning, which we're not, all those things that are heavily related to the future: sustainability, global related projects, food, energy, water-oriented research, things focused on things related to the future most broadly. And so not everything, none of our buildings are like that, not units per se, but that building will be moving forward. We have a second building that will be built near the Mayo Hospital. People know where that is in North Phoenix, near the 101. That will be a Health Solutions Innovation Facility. That will be built to also house joint programs with the Mayo Clinic, including ultimately the medical school, elements that related to the medical school, increasing research activities, social science, engineering, other things related to health solutions and health solutions innovations. And so that will be a second building. A third building is a commitment that we are now moving on the downtown campus to greatly expand our laboratory-based research infrastructure on the downtown campus, particularly as it relates to nutrition. Our new Dean in Health Solutions, Deborah, has a huge assignment of accelerating the evolution of our School of Nutrition and Health Promotion, of accelerating and advancing our School for Biomedical Informatics, which is based in Scottsdale, on the Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale, advancing our School for the Science of Healthcare Delivery, and a range of other programs. But in particular, we're expanding the ability to advance nutrition in lieu of negative health outcomes research. Nutrition research and health promotion research and human behavior outcome research as it relates to nutrition on the downtown campus. And so on a 7.5-acre site that we've acquired through our intergovernmental agreement with the City of Phoenix, we'll be advancing with a private sector partner a major research facility. And then when that facility is done, we'll see an intensification of nutrition-oriented research activities connected to nursing, connected to health solutions, connected to public policy, connected to policy informatics, connected to a range of activities that we've got going on in downtown Phoenix. But it also then outlines for us an important element of taking on human behavior as a particular focus for Arizona State. Projects that are in the hopper, so to speak, that are moving forward, including me pushing very hard on one that will be moving quickly, is a dramatic new facility on the downtown Phoenix campus, which will be related to innovation, art, creativity, where we're going to be building a residence hall, classroom facility that will have for the residents that live there, hopefully 300 or 400 undergraduates, the ability to start their own company, their own film enterprise, their own artistic, expressive studio. All these things will be built into this residence hall as a part of the way that this residence hall will work. Our new residence hall in engineering is giving us some lessons in this. We built a maker center in there. We put in the Amazon Echoes. We built some 3D printers in there. This will be even broader than that. So think of it as an innovation village for undergraduate students, innovation in the arts, innovation in business, innovation in science and creativity. And we'll be putting that somewhere on the downtown campus to begin with. Our new facility in Washington, and I really want to push this out, so we have been lucky enough to raise some money to find a good deal. We bought a building through our ASU Foundation a couple of years ago at 18th and I Street, which is near the headquarters of the World Bank, within walking distance of the White House. It's a 100-year-old plus brick building that we've completely gutted. It will be open for faculty use certainly by the beginning of the winter semester or the spring semester this year. So it's going to be the DC headquarters for ASU. There will be hoteling space, that is office hoteling space for faculty, meeting space, meeting engagement space. A complete replica of the Tempe-based Decision Theater will be set up on the first floor of that facility for faculty and others to engage policymakers, either of the American government or policymakers from any other government in the world, because they're all based in Washington except for a couple of exceptions that you hear about in the news, including a few minutes ago. And so the missile that was launched by the North Koreans over the country of Japan, by the way, which has never been done before. And so the Decision Theater will be there. The McCain Institute for International Leadership will be headquartered there. Our Center for the Future of War, which is a center for the future of conflict and the new dimensionalities that are going on, will be based there, and a range of other things will be based there. There are courses being taught there. There are activities being done there. There are degree programs that are being mounted up there, and it's a facility that we hope all of you will use. There's a 150-person meeting venue on the roof of this building with a glass that opens into the downtown Washington arena when that's all done, and so that would be there for meetings, academic events, alumni events with your schools, your departments, or things that you want to do in Washington. We also think there's some value as you become engaged in Washington activities to host things, host the meetings, host the meetings, host the meeting. Come to the ASU Center. It's all going to be done when finished in Arizona motif, Arizona stone, Arizona this, Arizona that, projecting at least in parts of the building a little bit more about Arizona. And I can't announce the two women that we'll be naming the building for, but that's going to be exciting when we're able to name the building for these two individuals. And so we're very excited about all of that. And so we have another facility, by the way, if you haven't been to it, at the corner of Arizona Avenue and Lincoln Drive in Santa Monica. And that facility, likewise, some of you are using, I know, film, dance, and theater uses that facility. A fair amount. Elements of our technology transfer group use that facility. But that's a facility in Metro Los Angeles that also has capacity for meetings, hosting meetings, holding events. We've done a lot of things over there. There's opportunities for staff and others to be over there. So as you think about Metro LA, global city, closest to us, Washington, D.C., these are two places where these kinds of facilities sit. And so let me turn to one last point, which is us going forward. So surely by now, I've said often enough, and I hope that it's been heard by many, if not most, whatever we used to be, that's not what we are. We're not a government agency anymore. We're not most heavily funded by the state like we used to be. We don't sit around waiting and preening for the state to fund us and to give us resources. We're 90% supported by revenue that we earn or revenue that's given to us. So things that are given to us or revenue that we earn. And one of the things that Provost Searle and I are working on with the deans and others is to drive more entrepreneurial energy and more entrepreneurial creativity down to the level of the deans in particular. How can they be more creative to generate more energy, to generate more activity, to generate more revenue so that faculty have more resources for everything that they're trying to do, and so that we also have more resources for our students. So an example of us operating as an academic institution moving forward is our online programs. We'll have 30,000 degree-seeking students in our online programs this semester across more than 150 degree programs, generating substantial revenue with lots of revenue that's then going back to individual units also. We're going to be working on incentive structures for the deans, financial models for the deans and the departments and the units, so that we can continue to do the things that we're doing centrally, but so that we can also, as we generate more energy and more revenue for the institution, more of that energy and more of that revenue can be used at the college level and at the department level and the school level. Not that it's not being used that way now, but used without having to negotiate with someone else. Basically, you have it as a part of the fruit of your labor, a fruit of your activity. And so we're looking to that. It'll take us, I would estimate, 2 years to implement these new ways that we're thinking about these kinds of models. But they are not intended to move the institution down the pathway of a type of university academic modeling for budgets called responsibility-centered management. There's none of the senior administrators at ASU believe in that system. We don't believe that. We believe that that creates barriers between and among units, arguments, constant complaints, fighting, all kinds of things that we have a little bit of, which is all fine, but luckily we don't have too much of it, so it paralyzes us. Also, what we're moving toward in terms of faculty salaries and faculty compensation is a model where the university will be making investments at a university level into a salary pool, and colleges and units will be making investments into that salary pool also. And so what we'll be doing is making certain from university resources that we're making resources available to the deans and to others, but they'll also be making resources available. And our goal is to try to get these salary pools for merit-based increases as high as we can possibly get them. And so I believe that to do that, though, we have to move away from the historic model of the institution, which was constantly relying in the past on what did the state do for salary adjustments. Well, let me tell you what the state does for salary adjustments now, and all but maybe one of the 15 years that I've been here, and that would be nothing. But nor do we want them to. We do not want to be, nor are we, nor have we ever been, state employees. We are university employees, which are invested in by the state. So we will seek resources from the state by every means necessary. We'll advance on those resources by every means necessary. But what we want is the university will then develop a model where we will find central resources to make available as a sort of a base level of salary adjustment going forward, a pool of resources that are given to the deans, and then individual deans working with the provost specifically, tactically, and then working with the provost and myself more broadly about where we're going with our different colleges. They will then also be taking this new financial model that we have in place and putting more resources into that model for compensation adjustments for meritorious faculty. So that's not done yet. We will be advancing a number this year. We will be trying to drive as high as we can the general pool for faculty salary adjustments, and so it's not like I'm putting this off. It's just that we're moving this forward in a way where we're trying to design a better system. We're also trying to say to faculty and to deans and to others, in your own unit, and there can be some exceptions to this, and we understand, if you're generating lots of activity and lots of energy and lots of income to your unit, and you've got high performers in your unit and they're working in certain ways, then there should be a way in which those individuals can benefit from what you're doing. Now, that's not the same as suggesting that we're going to have or encourage wide disparity. We're not. It's to basically say that we're going to try to find ways to generate a lot more activity. Let me give you an example of a level of activity where we're underperforming compared to other major research universities, and I'm not really sure why. So we have huge online activities engaging 30,000 people. We don't have large levels of continuing education or professional education. So the revenue at UCLA or at the University of Washington, other schools in these activities is north of $75 million a year. Ours is somewhere 5 million, 4 million. And so this is an area where if we found a way to assist the deans, empower the faculty, design the systems, empower the general marketing capability of the university, we might be able to generate, certainly in a city this size, we think, 70, 80, 90, $100 million a year of revenue from these kinds of activities. That is revenue then that can not only go back to the faculty performer of the continuing education or the professional education, but also to the unit and the units in which those faculty are positioned. And so we're looking for things like this also as we move forward. And so I think the only other thing that I will add is that in our relationship with the state, we're trying to narrow the scope of the relationship with the state to two things. One is their core responsibility to assist the citizens of Arizona, as stated in the Constitution of the state, to be able to attend this institution where the cost of instruction will be as close to free as possible. That's what the literal phraseology in the state constitution says. We've decided that that number is half of the cost of that education prior to financial aid. We're nowhere near that now in terms of the state investment. Nowhere near that, and that's what we're arguing for. And then the second thing that we say is, and this is really important for everyone's mindset, we will come to you occasionally for a physical infrastructure investment request. Something that goes beyond the normal thing that we would use, like this building, a general classroom building, this is not really, this is a part of our normal physical infrastructure. These kinds of buildings don't happen to cost that much. You can build them into your operating budgets and make these kinds of things happen. Elaborate other kinds of facilities cost a lot, and they're sort of beyond some of our means. And so this money that we received from the state last year for research infrastructure is an example of them making one of these occasional investments. What that means then is that, and this is really important, nothing else. Every other thing is up to us. So all we're asking them for is assistance relative to the residents from Arizona. That's it. And an occasional infrastructure investment. All other things are up to us. The institution's operating that way, has been operating that way for some time, but our culture is not operating that way. Our culture is still not operating that way. We operated as an agency of the government for decades and decades and decades. Well, that's the culture. So one of the things that we're continuing to try to work toward is to find ways where we can do that. So, went on a little bit too long, but you wanted me to give a summary, and so I gave a summary, and I'm happy to deal with questions if we have time for questions.
Okay. Are there any questions downtown?
Any questions? No questions?
Okay. Polly?
No questions from Polytechnic.
West? Anything?
No questions from West at this time.
Okay, we have one here in Tempe.
President Crow, could you clarify the role the Senate might have in playing with these new financial models with respect to the entrepreneurial aspects with the deans and the merit raises and so forth?
Yes, so we work with, obviously, Senate leadership from all campuses in the University Academic Council, that's what we call it, and that's where we concentrate our financial discussions, such as we have those discussions. The financial complexity of the institution, 18 dominant revenue sources, debt financing, bond rating, credit ratings, specialists that we have within the institution. My own view is that that is not a realm that should burden the faculty. How does the university work? What should burden the faculty is what the faculty think that they need to pursue their mission. What are the facilities that are needed, the programs that are needed, the investments that are needed. We heard a lot from the faculty and from others that we needed to make improvements in the Hayden Library. We're going to be spending $90 million on improving the Hayden Library. We've heard from the faculty that we needed more investments in support of the faculty, or from students, the same thing. And so it's not financial management. We hire financial managers. None of them are in this room. The chief financial officer of the university, the treasurer of the university, the various business officers, budget officers of the university. So several faculty members who make up the administration of the university work with those people to advance the interests of the university as a financial entity. So what we really need from this body is inputs on how do we improve the institution, what kinds of investments should we be focusing on or thinking about or considering, and how do we make the university successful. So that's from a financial management perspective. Believe me, you all don't want to know the financial management details of the institution. You don't want to sit in the credit rating meetings and talk to the credit raters who have a sort of an algorithm that they go through relative to our credit rating. But we're also ready and able and always willing to engage on anything that the University Academic Council wants to pursue, whatever that is, at any level of detail that's desired.
Thank you.
So there's nothing, everything's transparent to the extent that people want it to be transparent. You have to decide how much you want to deal with.
Hi, I'm Aviral from Computer Science. I wanted to know more about our collaboration with Adidas that you just announced.
So I was in Portland, Oregon last Thursday, and we announced there a couple of elements of a new partnership that we have with Adidas. So we have a few what we call strategic level partners. Those would be partners that we believe are major entities that can become involved with the university in its total activity as opposed to a project. So we have 4,000 companies that recruit here, give or take. We have 200 companies that fund projects here, maybe a few more than that. We have dozens of companies clustered in individual groups of centers, both in science and engineering, social science, other areas. We have a range of those things that are going on. So all of that is going on. We have an elaborate relationship with Starbucks, where we are an educational partner with them. That's now expanding into 2 or 3 or 4 other areas. Lots of activity in sustainability. Lots of activity in a global learning initiative that we've launched with Starbucks, and 7,000 students who are in our online students. We look for corporations like Starbucks that are conscious capitalists, if I can use those 2 words, that is, capitalists with a conscience. And so Adidas is another one of these companies. They approached us after they got to know us. So they got to know us in a marketing deal that we did with them for athletic apparel. So all major athletic programs at all Division I schools in the country have an athletic apparel marketing sponsor. Most schools are sponsored by Nike. A few schools are sponsored by Under Armour, and a few schools are sponsored by Adidas. We had been sponsored by Nike. We then became sponsored by Adidas. And as a part of that interaction, I got to know Mark King, who is the head of Adidas North America, as well as some of the corporate officers from Germany, where they're based. And in those discussions, they started to hear about our value system, our educational activities. They started to think a little bit more about where they were. They were very attracted to our sustainability programs. They were very attracted to our idea of inclusivity. And so several other things began to happen. One thing that they did was they gave us a $12 million gift to help us to launch a thing called the Global Sport Institute. We have subsequently hired probably the leading academic scholar in global sport issues from the Wharton School of Finance, Ken Shropshire. He's now, as of July 1st, on our faculty, and he is the leader of the Global Sport Institute. He'll be working on issues related to race in sport, culture in sport, the future of sport, sport and national outcomes, sport and economic outcomes. He's appointed in journalism and business, and he's already joined us. And then that institute is under the broader initiative that we have called the Global Sport Alliance. And under that alliance will be several things. Sorry for the long answer, but the Global Sport Institute is one program now funded with a $12 million gift, as well as university investments for Professor Shropshire and a few other faculty members that we have hired. 2 that I know of, one or two. 2 other staff, 1 other faculty member. So that's under the Global Sport Alliance. A second activity under the Global Sport Alliance is a series of research projects that will be funded. There are some in behavior and social sciences, some in engineering. Individual faculty members are already actively engaged in these. And so there'll be a series of research projects funded not as philanthropy, but funded as research projects from the company. And then a third category of activity, which we announced at the meeting up in Portland, is a precursor to a Starbucks-like program for educational attainment for Adidas employees, initially in the United States, where they have several thousand employees, and then subsequently globally. And so where we're headed with Adidas, because of our overlapping value system, is another one of these broadly scoped relationships. Another relationship that we have like that is the Mayo Clinic, where they just opened their medical school just last month. So that's one of the partnership activities we have going on with them. And another not yet fully evolved relationship that we have is with the Chemonics Corporation, which is the largest international development contractor for the U.S. Agency for International Development. So those are the four kind of strategic level partnerships that we're operating right now. In the Adidas program, we're starting with 100 students, and then it will grow over time. They'll have access to undergraduate degrees and graduate degrees, and then Adidas is very interested in longer-term things. We had a chance to visit their campus. They have a very, very different kind of model, working out, personal improvement, nutrition, community engagement, sustainability, everything that you can imagine is a part of their culture on the campus in Portland and how they're working. And so that's a long answer to your question, but that's what we're doing with Adidas, or as some say, Adidas, depending on where you grew up.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Donna Cataldo is now going to talk a little bit about learning management questions been involved with. Donna?
Hi, this is Donna Cataldo from the downtown Phoenix campus. Welcome back, everybody, to the fall semester. Just a quick update on the learning management system. Some of you may have attended, just before the semester began, two of the vendors that are kind of submitted RFPs, like request for proposals, presented. I think probably it's not a surprise who the vendors are, but because we're still, some of the things I can at least mention are that of the feedback that we've gotten from faculty, it's been very positive on both sides, which makes it interesting. But subsequently, we are still kind of negotiating with each of the vendors and still have yet to make any decision. And again, just to reiterate, no matter what vendor we end up going with, the learning management system will look different because it will all be cloud-based. So, which will be optimal for those of us who've already moved to like Dropbox and have everything on cloud anyhow. So that will be changing, but regardless of when the decision is made, and we're hoping to have negotiations done before the end of September, hopefully October, there'll be a full academic year in which we'll run parallel programs so that you'll have a full year to port your course over. And there will be assistance with that, of course, as well.
Okay,
and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions? West? Holly? Any questions here at Tempe? Okay, thanks a lot, Donna. We'll be looking forward.
My pleasure.
Okay, as far as the UAC report, the University Academic Council, not athletics, that's for sure. First of all, let me welcome Owen Anderson, who's become the campus president-elect at ASU West. And I'd also like to welcome the returning and new committee chairs who've taken on the responsibility of coordinating much of the Senate's work. They really do the work. Chuck, would you put those up, please? So these are the folks who are going to be doing the work. I'm going to obviously delegate as much as I possibly can. This listing is also up on the Senate website, and so I won't read all of these at this point. Next, I'd like to talk about the Senator Spotlight this year. This month we have Mansour Javedan. He represents the Thunderbird campus, which is the first time we've had somebody from Thunderbird doing that. He works and caucuses with the ASU West folks. I can tell you, having spent time out there, it's easier to get from Thunderbird to West than anywhere else. And he's been on the Senate since last fall. I recommend you have a look at the senator or at the dashboard for his statement. Okay, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Academic Integrity Initiative, and I see that Deputy Provost Lindquist is with us today, so I'll try not to step on her toes too much. We are now working on uniform procedures for entry into a database that will allow us to share academic integrity issues across colleges. There's been significant concerns that people will basically cheat in one college and we won't know about it in another. That should end sometime this year. The key is going to be making sure that everybody who enters stuff into that database does it in a consistent manner for everybody's sake. The other thing that we're going to be coming up with is academic integrity officers at the dean's level. You should expect to see that, I hope, within the next 6 months or so. Those folks are going to be tasked with we're carefully not going to uniform procedures across the campus. What we are going to do is try to migrate best practices. Various units have different levels of, let's say, concern about academic integrity. And therefore, we're going to leave the overall, let's call it the upside, to each unit. We will have a base level, obviously, across the campus. Another report I can give you is that you should expect to see two-factor verification for your emails, just like you've seen it for the MyASU site. That's coming. I don't know exactly when, but it's pretty soon. Yes, Mark? Only once a week. Mark assures me that only once a week. Yes, sir. Would you please come to the mic so that we can, and identify yourself so we know who, for the purposes of this.
John Spence, Physics. I've had a bit of a problem in Europe getting the thing to call me back. Now you can take a dongle that generates a number. This summer I found it didn't actually work for some reason. But so you make a cell phone call to do the two-factor once a week to someone who's in France, correct? The faculty travel during summer. They may be at a conference in France.
Yeah.
Can they use their email?
Okay, hang on.
It's device specific, because I've learned this with my ASU. I go in my laptop and then I'm on my desktop and I have to log in again. I've learned that I didn't know that. And so the intent is that this is, yes, that on whatever device you're carrying, that you should be able to log in once a week. This is what the people from technology tell me. So that's what I'm going to hold them to. But that's what they tell me is going to be the requirement. So no matter where you are, John, whether you're in France or whether you're somewhere else, it's supposed to work. We also learned, yes, and there are other things that you can get if you don't have a smartphone. There's a variety of other alternatives that can be used. And we just learned also, this within the last week, which we'll obviously share with people once we roll out all this information, is that how to log in on the airplane. Because it was the one thing that we ran into difficulty with. So, okay?
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Okay, the last part of my report is that the committee preference survey will be out very shortly. Please do sign up for a committee. As I say, that's where a lot of the work and a lot of the interesting things happen. Pick one that you are particularly interested in. We're also, by the way, in addition to the regular committees, convening an online task force. As you can tell from what Dr. Crow is saying, that's an increasingly large part of this university. And we as faculty ought to have a role in that on a regular basis. Besides the fact that most of us have taught online one way or the other over the last 5 to 10 years. So if you are interested in that particular task force, please indicate it on the committee preference survey. That one should come up very quickly. It's That's one that I'm particularly concerned with. Just so to remind you, the Senate position typically includes an expectation that you will be on at least, and actually only one committee in addition to the regular monthly Senate efforts. Most of the committees also meet once a month, so you'll go from one meeting a month to 2 meetings a month. That's the hope. Okay. Questions before we go on? Anybody? All right, then I'm going to ask Carolyn Harrison to come up. Is it Caroline or Carolyn? Caroline, I should know by now. And she will introduce CAPC motions.
For those of you who are new to the Senate, the process for proposals are the new business. These new proposals listed under new business I will be reading and presenting for the first time at this meeting. We will then take them up at the CAPC meeting coming up this Thursday, always the Thursday immediately after the Senate meeting. There, if you have any concerns or questions about any of these proposals, please let me know or let your representative on CAPC know. Then these proposals, once they have passed CAPC, will be given a second read at the next Senate meeting on the 25th. At that time, that is when you will vote on approving the proposals or not. So at this point, I'm simply presenting these proposals for your information. The items that are in Appendix A, they will also be presented at this upcoming CAPC meeting where they will be voted on, and that will be the last time. So if you have any concerns about the items in Appendix A, please make sure you get that information to me or to your CAPC member before our Thursday meeting at 10:30. Okay. So for the new business, I'm presenting the following CAPC motions as on a first reading. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of International Letters and Cultures for the disestablishment of an undergraduate certificate, European Union Studies. A request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of Mathematical and Statistical Sciences for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Analysis and Management of Insurance Risk. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of Geographical Sciences and Urban Planning for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Atmospheric Sciences. A request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of Politics and Global Studies for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Political Economy. A request from the College of Health Solutions, School of Nutrition and Health Promotion for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Health and Wellness Coach. And a request from the College of Nursing and Health Innovation for the name change of a graduate degree from MS in Science and Regulatory Safety to MS in Regulatory Science.
All right, let me echo what Caroline is saying. I ran that committee for a couple of years, not as well as she's done it, but anyway. And it's very important that you have your input. We obviously can have overlap, and we want all that to be worked out well before we get into other issues. Okay, now I'd like to call on Caroline again to present the new course proposal consent agenda. And that agenda has been distributed via email on August 15th. All right, so since it is a consent agenda, the question is, are there any courses on that agenda that people would like pulled off for further discussion? Let me go around the campuses. So downtown?
We're good, thank you.
Okay. Poly?
Nothing from Poly.
Okay. West?
Good.
Okay. Anybody here in Tempe have a concern about any of the courses on the consent agenda? Okay, then I'm going to call for a vote since we have clicker issues, as I said. The folks in Tempe are welcome to use, well, no. Let's ask Shirley to come up and we'll, please, just do it. And what we will ask is, are there any negatives? Okay, anybody who is not in favor since this is a consent agenda? Seeing none in Tempe, anyplace else? I don't see any at the other campuses, so the consent agenda is approved. Okay. Now, I'm supposed to do the next one, right? You do this one.
I'll read them and then you call the vote. Okay. All I get to do is read. You're the official person. The following motions were discussed at the last CAPC meeting way back in April and approved. This is the last read. I will read the items on this consent agenda, and then Arnie will ask if there's anything to be removed for further discussion, and then there will be the vote. So the following items are presented for a final read. Request from the College of Health Solutions for the establishment of a graduate certificate, Integrated Behavioral Health Clinical. Request from the College of Health Solutions for the establishment of a graduate certificate, Integrated Behavioral Health Management. Request from the College of Health Solutions, School of Nutrition and Health Promotion for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Health Education Specialist. Request from the College of Health Solutions, Dean's Office for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Integrated Behavioral Health. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Department of English for the disestablishment of an undergraduate certificate, Entertainment and Technology. Request from the Mary Lou Fulton Teachers College, Division of Teacher Preparation for the disestablishment of an undergraduate certificate, Games and Impact. Request from the School of Sustainability for the establishment of a graduate degree, MS in Global Sustainability Science. Request from the Thunderbird School of Global Management for the establishment of a graduate degree, MALM in Applied Leadership and Management.
Okay, as we said, that is a consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull out anything off the agenda for further discussion? Again, let me start downtown.
We're fine, thank you.
Okay, Polly?
We're fine too.
Okay, West?
We are good.
Okay. Okay, seeing none, we will assume that we have consent, or we should, I suppose, do we call a vote, Chuck? Or do we just? Okay, we should, therefore, let's just formally vote on this. Just ayes or nays at the various campuses. So go ahead and just let us know. Any negatives at the other campuses? Let me again go by. Polly, anybody negative up there?
Everybody is in favor.
Okay. Downtown?
We have 15 yeses.
Thank you. West?
All ayes.
Okay. So it's, as we had hoped, it's a universally consented to agenda. All right. This particular session, because it's the very first one, we do not have any specific committee reports. Let me emphasize again, though, that the Committee on Committees will be putting out a preference survey, and we would ask everybody to consider being part of one of these Senate committees. And at that point, I will now entertain open forum for anybody who would like to speak. Again, I'll go around. Polly, anybody there would like to speak to open forum?
No, thank you.
Okay. West?
Nobody.
Anybody? And then downtown?
No, thank you.
I don't see anybody here. Last chance, everybody. Okay. With that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. I'll never be this short.